ever heard of? Like pigeons, steering bombs?
Pigeons.
Yeah, pigeons. No, this isn't like some alternate history.
Okay.
Today, we're diving deep into Project Pigeon, a real declassified World War II program.
World War II.
Yeah, it sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
It's a fascinating story for sure. It really gets you thinking about innovation, animal intelligence, all that.
Our main source for this deep dive, none other than B.F. Skinner himself.
Skinner. Wow.
Yeah, the renowned psychologist. He spearheaded this whole audacious project.
Which, let's be honest, sounds a little crazy at first.
Right. And, Skinner was already a respected scientist back in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Not exactly who you'd picture, like, messing around with pigeons.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
And to really grasp this whole thing, you got to remember the context. World War II, the rise of Nazi Germany.
Yeah, it was a scary time.
Absolutely. The terrifying reality of air raids, the desperate search for, any advantage in a conflict that was escalating so rapidly.
Like, it makes sense in a way.
Right. Even before the war, using animals for sensing, signaling, that wasn't new. Guard dogs, bloodhounds, even seagulls trained to spot submarines.
Really? Seagulls.
Yep. But this Project Pigeon, that was on a whole other level.
This wasn't just about instinct.
No.
It was about training pigeons to do incredibly complex things.
Training them to become, essentially, living guidance systems.
That's just wild.
Now, what's remarkable is that Skinner's team at the University of Minnesota, they actually pulled it off.
Wow.
Using a surprisingly simple principle, operant conditioning.
Okay, for those of us who haven't, opened a psychology textbook lately,
Yeah.
what exactly does that mean?
It's all about reinforcing certain behaviors. You use rewards. Like, imagine you're teaching a dog a new trick, right?
Right.
You give it a treat when it sits, stays, fetches the newspaper, whatever. Over time, it learns to connect that behavior with getting a reward. And so it does it more and more.
So instead of treats, Skinner's team, they used, what, grain?
Exactly. They started simple pigeons and harnesses, right?
Right.
They'd present them with these targets, and whenever they pecked at the right spot, bam, reward time.
Clever. But how do you go from, like, pecking at a target to steering a missile in flight?
Well, you got to think about how training works. They increased the complexity gradually. Once those pigeons had the basics down, they introduced moving targets. Eventually, they even used this hoist system. It could move a target up, down, left, right, you name it.
So the pigeons had to, like, adapt.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting. They then moved to this rotating turntable with little model ships on it, like a miniature simulated ocean right there in the lab.
So they could simulate, like, an actual naval battle.
Pretty much. And here's where it gets really impressive. Through all that training, that reward system, Skinner and his team started to realize these birds, they were capable of learning way more than anyone had thought.
You mean not just pecking at a target?
Right. They could tell the difference between different shapes of ships. They could ignore distractions. They even stayed focused when the researchers blasted loud noises to, mimic combat.
Wow. That's incredible.
It really makes you wonder, like what else these pigeons could learn. What other abilities are hidden in there?
It's like we're just scratching the surface of animal intelligence.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. Pigeons navigate these crazy urban environments every single day. Who knows what kind of potential we could unlock if we knew how to tap into that?
It's pretty mind-blowing. But before we get too far off course, let's get back to Project Pigeon.
Right.
Because this wasn't just, like, a thought experiment. This was about building a real guidance system.
And that's where Project Pelican comes in.
Project Pelican.
Yeah, the actual missile they were going to use.
Okay.
This wasn't your average missile, though. This thing was huge. A massive glider, actually. They nicknamed it the Pelican.
Well, I had Pelican.
Because of its nose cone, the front part, it was huge. Like a pelican's beak. It could hold way more than its actual belly.
Wait, so they picked this, like, enormous missile for this pigeon project. Why?
The size was important. See, back then, guidance systems, they were big and clunky. The Pelican's nose cone, that was big enough to fit all that equipment.
And the pigeons, I'm guessing.
And the pigeons!
So they crammed pigeons, lenses, all that into the nose of this giant missile.
Pretty much.
There couldn't have been much room left for, actual explosives.
That's the funny part. You had this missile designed to deliver a payload, but with all that space for the guidance system, not much room for anything else.
Talk about a high-tech, low-impact weapon.
Right.
But I'm guessing this whole ambitious plan, it came with a few challenges.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just imagine trying to sell this idea to the government. We're going to win the war with pigeons.
Especially with a world war going on. They needed results.
Exactly.
Did they, like, get any pushback from other scientists?
Oh, I'm sure. Can you imagine being in that room,
Yeah.
presenting this idea to a bunch of serious physicists? Trust us, the birds are going to guide the missiles.
I'd pay to see that. But somebody must have believed in it, right? I mean, we're talking about it now.
You're right. That's where General Mills comes in.
Wait, that General Mills?
Yep. The cereal people.
No way.
They were brought in for their engineering expertise.
So from breakfast cereal to top secret pigeon-powered missiles.
Pretty wild, right?
That's quite the career change. So what did these General Mills engineers come up with?
Well, they had this one really ingenious solution. They called it the pneumatic pickup system.
The what?
Pneumatic.
Yeah.
Basically, they used air pressure to translate the pigeon's pecks into electrical signals.
Hold on. How do you go from a pigeon peck to, like, steering a missile?
Okay, so each pigeon, right, it's sitting in front of the screen.
Okay.
The target is projected onto that screen like a little movie. And when the pigeon pecks at the target,
Yeah.
it creates this tiny change in air pressure right there on the screen.
Okay.
And they had these super sensitive instruments that could pick up those changes. Then they amplified them and translated them into actual steering commands.
That is so clever.
Right.
But what if, like, the pigeon gets distracted? Or just decides it doesn't want to steer a missile anymore?
Good point. Remember we talked about how huge the Pelican was?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't just use one pigeon per missile. They used three.
3 pigeons.
3 pigeons, each with its own little viewing station.
So they're all, like, picking at the same screen.
Yes. But here's the really cool part. The control system. It took a majority vote from the pigeons.
A majority vote.
Yeah. So say 2 pigeons peck left, 1 pecks right. The missile still goes left.
Like some kind of avian democracy? That's amazing. So they've got this incredible system, this democratic bird brain-powered guidance system.
It really is remarkable.
But I have a feeling this isn't a story about pigeons being hailed as, heroes of war, is it?
You're picking up on something there. They actually got pretty far with it. They had a working prototype.
Wow, really?
The pigeons, they were performing flawlessly in simulations, tracking targets for, like, crazy lengths of time.
How long we're talking?
They even had one pigeon, a real star performer. It could keep the simulated missile locked on a single street intersection
Okay.
for 5 minutes straight.
5 minutes. That's incredible.
It really is. I mean, I can barely focus on anything for 5 minutes. It speaks to how powerful this operant conditioning can be and the unexpected depths of, avian intelligence.
Avian.
Bird intelligence.
Right, okay. But
But here's the thing. They eventually had to present the project to a committee.
to get more funding.
Exactly. And that's where this whole story, it takes this unexpected turn.
Oh, no. What happened?
Imagine this. A room full of these brilliant scientists, right?
Oh,
Physicists, engineers, probably a few military bigwigs thrown in there too.
intimidating.
A little bit. So Skinner and his team, they unveil their creation.
Dramatically.
Oh, yeah. It was a black box with a small window. And inside, a pigeon ready to do its thing.
I bet those scientists were skeptical.
Oh, I'm sure there were some raised eyebrows.
So what happened?
The demonstration started. And the pigeon, flawless performance, tracked the moving target perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem. It was too perfect.
What do you mean?
These scientists, they were looking for a reason to dismiss it. And the fact that this pigeon, this lowly creature, could do what it was doing.
It just didn't compute.
Exactly. They couldn't accept that a pigeon could outperform, a machine. Their whole worldview was challenged.
So what happened? They shut it down.
They did. Project Pigeon was officially scrapped in 1944. All that work, all that research, shelved. And those pigeons, the unsung heroes of avian innovation, well, they were left to wonder what might have been.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. About how our own biases can hold us back.
Even in the face of, undeniable proof.
Exactly. Sometimes the most out there ideas, the ones that challenge everything we think we know, they're the ones that lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
And we might be missing out on who knows what,
Yeah.
just because those ideas seem too strange, too radical, too bird-brained.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating and ultimately kind of tragic story of Project Pigeon. It just goes to show, sometimes the most incredible stories are hidden in plain sight, right under our noses, or maybe flying overhead.